A source close to Brad tells People magazine he was drunk and there was an argument between him and Angelina. Maddox, their oldest son, stepped in to defend his mom and got caught in the middle.
Pitt bolted at the minor like he was gonna attack. So Jolie jumped up and grabbed Pitt around his neck like a chokehold. Then, according to the report, Pitt yelled at her, grabbed her by her head, shook her, pushed her into the bathroom wall, and repeatedly punched the ceiling of the plane during the flight.
Brad Pitt is a terrible father. He cheated on Angelina Jolie and destroyed their family. But he didn't go out without a fight, and that just led to Brad traumatizing his children even further. Brad Pitt is a bad guy and a terrible father to these kids. So let's get into it. Brad Pitt might be one of the best actors of our generation, but he's by far not the best father. And today we're going to talk about the complicated relationship between him and his children. But before we get there, we have to go all the way back to 2005 and talk about the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because this is what brought Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie together. We see this happen time and time again. These actors get on set, they end up falling in love, and then there's a relationship. Whether they had partners before, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes I feel like the script alone, like if they have a love interest in the movie, it's going to play out in real life, and that's what happened here.
They are the world's most deadly assassins. Their identities are a secret, even from each other.
So the movie was a hit, but people had mixed feelings about Brad and Angelina's relationship. Probably because Brad was still married to Jennifer Aniston, so he had left Jennifer for Angelina. Once we started seeing Brad and Angie out and about, Jennifer filed for divorce against Brad, giving him the freedom to go and be with Angelina Jolie. Brad and Angelina denied being involved while he was still married to Jen, and Jen said that she had no choice but to believe that. Quote, "I chose to believe my husband. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised by anything, but I'd much rather choose to believe him." But before Brad and Angelina got together, Angelina adopted her son, Maddox. She got him at 7 months old from Cambodia back in 2002. Although Brad wasn't there when Maddox was adopted, he did assume a fatherly role. And when they went on to adopt their daughter, he was a part of that process. They actually have 6 children together, so it's a large family. And their family dynamic is complicated. Actually, we learned about an incident that went down back in 2016 after an FBI report was leaked. They were flying home on a private jet from France to the United States, where Brad and Angelina got into a fight that involved the children. This fight actually led to Angelina being granted full custody of their children, and Brad got granted visitation. So he really wasn't the key player here because he was a big problem in this fight. And they probably would have kept this under wraps if the report wasn't published, because we didn't hear about it for years. But Angelina's statement claims that Brad had a conversation with one of the kids, probably Maddox, before getting onto the plane. More than an hour into the trip, he allegedly grabbed Angelina by the head and shook her before grabbing her shoulders and shaking her again. One of the kids reportedly tried to step in and defend Angelina, and she said that Brad allegedly lunged at the minor child.
Brad and Angelina Jolie and their 6 kids were on a private plane that left Nice, France, en route to LA. It made a refueling landing at Falls International Airport in Minnesota. That's where Pitt is said to have lost it. A source close to Brad tells People magazine he was drunk and there was an argument between him and Angelina. Maddox, their oldest son, stepped in to defend his mom and got caught in the middle. Literally, he stepped in front of Brad. There was a parent-child argument which was not handled in the right way and escalated more than it should have.
So this ordeal was a family affair. Angelina claims the children rushed in and all bravely tried to protect each other. Before it was over, Brad choked one of the children and struck another in the face. Some of the children pled with Brad to stop. They were all frightened, many were crying. Angelina did get physical with Brad, but it was to defend her children because her children called him a prick, then he went after them, and then I guess Angelina got him into a chokehold. At one point, he told one of his children that they looked like a school shooter, so it got really nasty.
With Angelina telling FBI officials her version of the incident, claiming that after one of Pitt's 6 children called him a bad name, Pitt bolted at the minor like he was gonna attack. So Jolie jumped up and grabbed Pitt around his neck like a chokehold. Then, according to the report, Pitt yelled at her, grabbed her by her head, shook her, pushed her into the bathroom wall, and repeatedly punched the ceiling of the plane during the flight. Pitt's team has denied all accusations.
I can't imagine being in the air in a little private jet, which I'm sure the private jet was very nice, but like when I'm in a plane, like I don't even like to move around. Like I don't want to change like the weight of the plane. I don't want it to like turn a certain way. Like I just get so paranoid flying. I can't imagine doing all that fighting while like in a plane. Like everyone would have to stay seated and buckle their seatbelts until we're off this plane, and then we can fight, I guess. But it was probably easy for Brad to fight because Angelina claims that Brad was drinking a lot on the plane, and at one point even poured beer on Angelina and the blanket she was under. When the plane landed, she said it had sustained $25,000 worth of damage from the spilt red wine. I'm sure the punching of the ceiling and all that probably added up to it as well.
The FBI report goes on to say Pitt allegedly consumed multiple alcoholic beverages during the flight and at one point poured beer on Jolie and the blanket she was under. When the plane similar to this one landed, Jolie claimed it had $25,000 worth of damage from spilled red wine. Pitt later admitted to having a drinking problem. He is now sober.
But the fighting didn't just stop when the plane landed, because at that point, Brad didn't want anyone to get off of the plane. Angelina supposedly waited until Brad fell asleep, and she was able to devise a plan to get the kids safely to a hotel. At the time, a source close to Brad confirmed that the actor had been drinking and said that he acknowledged that he crossed a line. Well, sounds like a few different lines were crossed. Like I said, this FBI report has been leaked to the press, but back in 2017, he did everything in his power to make sure all of the documents between them were sealed. And Angelina felt like they should be public. He's just trying to hide who he really is. And I guess the FBI were involved because it was like international, because like they were flying from France to the United States. I really don't know why the FBI would be involved, but I guess because like there's no real state that it happened in, so yeah, it's complicated. Now, Brad hasn't gone easy on Angelina in court, and she's not backing down either. Actually, in March 2021, she filed new court documents against him, claiming that she has proof that he is violent. Angelina also claimed that if her children were able to testify in a custody hearing, their statements would support her allegations. Maddox is their oldest child, and he's been the most outspoken against Brad. Here's a video clip taken a couple of years ago where Maddox was leaving for a university in South Korea, and the paparazzi was asking him about his relationship with Brad.
Yeah. How about your dad? Is he going to come and visit? Do you want him to come and visit?
Oh, I don't know about that. What's happening?
No, you don't know what's going to happen with that? Is your relationship with him sort of over, or?
Well, whatever happens, happens.
Maddox was a little bit more tamed then, but recently he has called out Brad and he has a lot to say. Headlines read that Brad Pitt is an awful human being, says his son in a scathing Father's Day post. This report reads that his son has called him a world-class a-hole and an effing awful human being. Let's go ahead and read this together. Happy Father's Day to this world-class a-hole. You time and time again prove yourself to be a terrible and despicable person. You have no consideration or empathy toward your 4 youngest children who tremble in fear when in your presence. Oh my gosh. You will never understand the damage you have done to my family because you are incapable of doing so. You have made the lives of those closest to me a constant hell. You may tell yourself and the world whatever you want, but the truth will come to light someday. So happy Father's Day, you effing awful human being. Whew, that was a lot. One insider claims that Brad had no emotional response to this post, which kind of a red flag that you don't care that your son feels this way. The insider said that this is just unfortunate that people keep trying to bring kids into things. It's been a long 7 years, and it's unfortunate when people unnecessarily raise issues from so far in the past. Okay, so he just doesn't want to address the past, which keep in mind, these are young adults. They're now like coming to terms with their trauma, and Brad Pitt is part of it. And it seems like Maddox is not the only one who stands against Brad Pitt, because actually their daughter decided to remove Pitt from her name as she joins a college sorority. Her name was Zahara Jolie Pitt, but now she's just Zahara Jolie. The big reveal happened on November 16th when the 18-year-old debuted as a new sorority member and introduced herself as Zahara Jolie. The dropping of Pitt's last name comes after countless years of speculation that the famous actor has continued his estrangement from his 6 children. And even though we don't have the fine details, people are noticing things. This person tweeted, "I wasn't going to say anything, but I definitely peeped that Zahara left Pitt off her last name." And it seems like Maddox might be doing the same thing. He also doesn't use Pitt on his documentation or his legal notices, so he just uses Jolie, and it seems like they're just completely disassociating from Brad Pitt completely. An insider expressed that Maddox wants to legally change his last name to Jolie, but Angelina doesn't support that. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe she just doesn't want them to completely write off their father, because like it is their dad, so like maybe if he's a terrible person, like one day he'll come around. I don't know. So maybe she's trying to stay neutral. Angelina has supposedly tried to bring Maddox and Brad back together, but this source claims that Maddox hasn't been receptive, and for Brad, it's a tremendous loss. Brad does have hope for one of his sons named Pax, claiming that he hopes one day that this child will come around and won't be influenced by his older brother Maddox when, Maddox is making these damning posts about him. So he does have 6 kids. Maybe he will have a relationship with some of them, but kind of sad that he's hopeful for Pax, but like kind of giving up on Maddox. Anyways, it's some sad family drama, and even though Brad Pitt might be at the top of his game and he's killing it, he's not doing right by his family, and it's sad to watch it play out in the media because you can't really like ignore it. It's out there. I mean, even when Maddox made his most recent post, it's like, well, you can tell like it's still going on, and it probably will go on forever until one day these kids really tell their own stories. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you in a new video soon. Bye guys.